Before I get started, I want to thank our law enforcement brothers and sisters who have traveled some short miles, some thousands of miles, to come here and pay our respects to Mike Michalski and his family. Thank you very much. It's deeply humbling and an honor. I know my executive staff is a little worried about what I'm going to say, but I'm not a politician. And this is something that I have to say. We know about Mike. I'll start off with a quote. This is it's coming from the heart. It's a quote provided by writer George Orwell that emphasizes the importance of law enforcement in our society. What you learned about Mike Michalski this past week defines this quote. People sleep peacefully in their beds at night only because rough men and women stand ready to do violence on their behalf. Think about that. Think about what we take for granted in our cities throughout our country to be able to sleep at night. Do you think people sleep peacefully in their cities and war zones or violent cities throughout other countries? We take things for granted here for what is deeply cherished in other countries around the world and forget about those who have sworn to protect us from the evil that's out there. It takes a special kind of person to do this type of work. You have to be rough, strong, courageous. Yet you have to be compassionate, caring, and God-fearing. You have to be fearless, be able to chase an armed gunman into a house who's concealed. You have to remove that wolf from the herd we stand to protect. You have to have a selfless mindset to run in a burning home and save a life. You have to forget about your fears and climb buildings and bridges to talk a suicidal person from jumping off. Michael was just this to the highest degree. Michael showed that he was courageous enough to shelter the herd from the wolf, which quickly placed him in specialty units throughout our department, such as the Anti-Gang Squad in District 2, the Neighborhood Patrol Bureau, and the Warrant Squad, which seeks the most violent felons that walk the streets of Milwaukee. Was Michael rough and tough? You betcha. Michael was also compassionate and had a heart of gold. A man that gave his life to public service and at the end to God. Michael was a person that viewed himself as the same as a drug dealer, a gang member, a prostitute, as a sinner on this world. Michael was a person that prayed for every person he arrested, fought with, or merely came into contact with. Michael was simply selfless. And I can go on, but we'll stop there as he gave his own eulogy on July 21st, 2016. And enough said about the video. If you haven't seen it, you will. It's on the internet. This is why I said, and Governor, you're still in my words, you stole my words, but if I could clone Mike and place him throughout the department, no one would object. He's what we all want in a cop. On the night that Mike died, like most, I began to reflect on my memories with him. His first work assignment was in District 2, which was my first, and one that I hold to my heart. In the early 2000s, I was a detective and often worked with district specialty units. And when in District 2, it was with Mike and his peers. Just a little humor. We as peers tend to tease each other. And at District 2, when Mike came on the job, his nickname was the mailman, because the officer said, "You look more like a fit mailman than an overweight cop." He definitely proved himself he was a cop, and not only that, but he earned the nickname of Commander. As we continued our working relationships throughout the year, I noticed Mike was one of those people that would ask more about me or you than about himself. A listener and a genuinely caring person. My last reflection of him was when I was chosen to be chief. Came to my office, gave me words of encouragement. The most powerful thing was the look into my eyes, stated he was going to be praying for me. The rest is between him and I. Now as the chief for the Milwaukee Police Department, I see today's challenges, and I often seek advice from those old leaders that have come and gone. In seeking, what I try to do is put things in perspective of what they went through and what we will endure. And some of those things that are important today is Milwaukee went through 1970 to roughly 1990, 20 years. We had about 20 officers pass away in the line of duty, the most in Milwaukee's history through a 20-year span. I learned that a 20-year burden that came upon the Milwaukee Police Department brought anger, blame, and denial. With 2 deaths in 7 weeks on the Milwaukee Police Department, these thoughts are on my mind and put stress on me. Find out, what message do I send to keep our officers focused? I was worrying about this last week as I walked out of the medical examiner's office, and I approached a crowd of over 300 officers grieving in front of me. And as I continued to get closer, I heard a Sergeant Andy Tischer, speaking to a group of Michael's peers from the Special Investigations Division. And I listened. And in short, what I heard Andy say, we can't do this in anger of his death and ruin what he pushed us to be. We need to police in honor of Mike and keep his memory strong. Let's do it the Mike way. I couldn't believe Mike was talking. I know it was Andy, but I couldn't believe Mike was talking. He was doing us a huge favor because I really didn't know what to say that day. Mike is definitely a hero and a servant of God and will not be forgotten. I will disagree with you, Mike, on one thing. You are better than a drug dealer. You're better than a gang member and a prostitute. You are better than all of us here today, which is why the Lord chose you for a greater assignment. God bless you, and thank you for your service and for everyone you've touched.